Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Finally sounding almost back to normal, feeling mostly back to normal, so yay. And to kick off feeling normal, I have a longer video than usual, making quite a few cards. I made an absolute mess and had a blast doing it. My favorite things just had their May release, and I had to use the watermelon slice Die-Namics. I just fell in love with it. So rather than keep things simple and just die cut from, green and pink cardstock, which I initially was going to do, I wanted to create my own backgrounds. So I cut a piece of just Arteza watercolor paper. I don't think it really matters what brand you use. I just grabbed it because I have, a bunch of it and I wanted to experiment. So I'd cut it in half, and this ends up being like a 6 by 9 inch piece. And I just got the newest Distress Oxide sprays as well. My order finally arrived and I am so happy because there's the mowed lawn color and the twisted citron, which I was like, yes. So that's what I'm using right now. I started with those two. I sprayed water first, and then I sprayed the sprays and I splattered a bit. And then I also remembered that I had this picket fence spray stain. This came out a long time ago. I got this a long time ago with the intention of I had hoped it'd be more like a white splatter like I, like to use. But because it's a distress, and it's the picket fence, it's not usually very white. So I haven't really used it much in videos. But because I was creating this watermelon rind sort of a background, I used that. And then you can see here, I had let it all dry, and I've got kind of this mottled look going, but I wanted more intense green. And I don't have any of the actual colors of Distress Spray Stain. I need to get them. They're on my list. So to make up for that, I'm just using Mowed Lawn Distress Ink Re-Inker. Now, FYI, people ask me this, can you use the sprays to re-ink your ink pads, all that stuff? No. Different formula. Same with the re-inkers. The re-inkers are not the same as the sprays. The re-inkers are meant for your ink pads. So there is ingredients in them that make them not want to dry because you don't want your ink pads to dry out. So I wasn't thinking clearly. I was still sick when I was making these. But I made the Mowed Lawn re-inker work here. You can see I got a good splatter, but it doesn't really want to dry. So I caught myself and finally added a bit of water to it. And I'm actually using the Distress splatter brush. It's plastic bristles or whatever to create the splatter. Once I added water to it, it started behaving properly, but I still had to dab up quite a bit of it because it doesn't want to dry, because that's what a re-inker is meant for. It's meant to re-ink your ink pads. If you add some water to it, you can get a spray effect. You can do techniques with it. You can paint with them. I've shown that in other videos. So yeah, it always helps too. Just another side note. It helps to watch Tim Holtz videos. And he does also have creative chemistry classes on onlinecardclasses.com. Highly recommend those as well, because there's so many products he has, and they do different things. But this, I was just layering. I layered and layered and layered until I was happy with it. I just kept adding splatter, and then I set it aside to dry. Now, for this one, I created an even bigger mess. And apologies for my camera was going a little nuts. I forgot that I had the autofocus on, and I was more, concentrating on playing with backgrounds than I was actually staring at my camera screen. So in editing, I was like, ugh, because, yeah, my camera's kind of freaking out with all this. But I'm using just my Waffle Flower Media Mat here. I made a huge mess because I was like, I needed a lot of the spray. So I just sprayed it right onto the mat. I have ink everywhere. It was fun. So I have the same watercolor paper here. And I had sprayed it first with water, so it's very, very wet. I am really heavy with the water with this one. I didn't want the splattery spray type of background. So I was literally picking up those Distress Spray Oxide sprays with a mini ink blending tool, the foam, just a clean foam. And then kind of applying it that way, very heavy. And I'm mixing Abandoned Coral and Picked Raspberry together to get that more, watermelon color. And just kind of having fun with it. These sprays are I'm really, really enjoying them. They kind of make me think outside the box from what I normally do when I make cards and do backgrounds and that. And it's just fun to play. And I enjoy making the mess. You can kind of protect your work surface a little bit more, do as I say, not as I do sort of a thing. But at the same time, this is all does clean up with water. Even my media mat here, this Waffle Flower one, when I get it as filthy as I do today, I actually take it and I either take it in my sink, or I'll even take it into my shower sometimes, and just hose it down with water. cleans it right up. And then I use my hair dryer to quickly dry it. Takes like a minute, not even, and it's good to go. So I just really heavily applied the sprays with the blending tool. I added more water and just kind of let it drip and do its thing, and then set it aside to dry. And then, yeah, my media mat, I wiped it up with a baby wipe and then ended up just, yeah, holding it in my shower, hosed it down with the water, cleaned it right up until it looks like brand new. So cleaned up that mess. It's still stained my hands, but I don't care. Again, if that really bothers you, you could wear gloves. If, you know, ink stains and that sort of thing bugs you, I don't mind. I do kind of look like I have a strange disease though, because my nails are now stained like green and pink and coral, and but I don't mind it. It doesn't bother me in the least. Like, a bit of scrubbing mostly removes it. But anyway, if staining bothers you, wear gloves, then you're good. So this background is completely dry. I splattered it with water, let it sit for a bit, picked it up with paper towel. You get a little bit of the water splatter effect. Not as much as you would if you'd applied the sprays like direct, like, because I added so much water before, you get different effects. But I was curious, so I added more water splatter. I just take the nozzle right out of my spray bottle and, you know, flick it against my fingers and whatnot. And then rather than pick that up with a paper towel first, I heated it with my heat tool. And that's where you get to see more of the water effect come out, because the heat tool is also drying the previous water splatters. I didn't want a ton of texture with this. I just wanted a little bit, because I already did, you know, a ton of texture with the green background. So with both of these backgrounds, once they were completely dry, I die cut them with the watermelon slice Die-Namics. And the thing I love about that set is there's all the pieces you need. There's the, you know, the center portion of the watermelon. There's the outline piece, which is the rind. And then there's the little strips that are the, like, the white part of the watermelon. And then there's separate seed die. Like, it's got everything. So I did all my die cutting. And I also die cut the seeds from some Nouveau mirror card. I used black velvet mirror cardstock. This is the one that has the satin effect, so it's not quite so glossy. They literally look exactly like watermelon seeds. I love when that happens. So I had originally thought, I was like, oh, I can die cut these all from black cardstock and then use, you know, glossy accents or crystal glaze to, you know, cover them. But I'm like, I'm going to be here for a month if I'm going to cover every single one of these seeds with glossy accents. So then I remember that I had this black velvet cardstock, and it was perfect. So I did all my die cutting. Once I had all my die cutting, I can do all my assembling. Excuse the mess I'm making with my little glue bottle. This is the Studio Katia liquid glue, and before I turned on the camera, I wasn't paying attention, and I squeezed really hard. There was a little clog in the tip because I'd pressed it against the cardstock without paying attention, and like literally pressed a chunk into the tip. So then when I wasn't thinking, I squeezed the bottle to remove it rather than just take it out with a pin. So I was getting glue everywhere. But again, once my brain caught up with everything, realized what I did, wiped up my mess, went on about creating everything. So the easiest thing I found is I had all the little seeds in my little dish here. And I just applied the adhesive first to all the openings, and then I'm just using the little narrow end of my jewel picker to pick these up and press them into place, and it took no time at all. So I was able to assemble all of these little watermelon slices just back to back to back, like I always do when I'm doing, you know, multiple cards. And this took no time at all. I just went through, adhered everything into place, added the little dabs of adhesive, and then picked up the little seeds and pressed them into place, and this all just went along swimmingly. So after I had done my initial die cutting, before I was assembling, and figured out how many slices I had, I knew I was going to make a few cards. I wasn't sure how many I'd get in the end, and in the end I ended up making 5 cards with all of these, like these backgrounds and die cuts and whatnot. So I did everything in my standard, basically mass production method. So, you know, I did my messy backgrounds first, and then I did all of my die cutting, then I did all of my assembling. Now I'm going to do the sentiments, which are from the new Sweet Sentiments stamp set. I just picked out a bunch of sentiments that I wanted to use, and I am stamping them onto some green cardstock with clear embossing ink. So I'd use my anti-static powder tool first, and then stamped all the sentiments with clear embossing ink. And I ended up stamping more than I'm showing on camera. I stamped pretty much, I think, double this all together. Like, I just did a whole bunch, again, all at once. So stamped a whole bunch of them, coated all of them with some detail white embossing powder. And then I'm going to melt all of this with my heat tool. Once everything is melted, I'm going to die cut all of these with the skinny strips Die-Namics so that all of them are die cut with little flag ends on them. And then I'm going to set all those aside for the assembly process. So once I have all those little sentiments, I'd also die cut the sweet Die-Namics dies. It has the word and the outline. So I die cut those from white and black cardstock. And another random little tip: when you have any sort of any die cutting, whether it be intricate dies or just any dies, sometimes cardstock likes to be finicky, and you get those little threads, those little slivers of cardstock that kind of stick out around die cuts sometimes. A lot of times that happens if you're using cheaper quality cardstock. They can be really bad for that. But sometimes it's just, you know, just that day, you know, and it just wants little threads, and it's annoying, especially when you're doing like white on black. So I have a little toothbrush that I keep on my desk. It's clean toothbrush. And I will rub that against the cardstock. If you hold it down, especially if it's intricate, hold it down really well with your fingers. And then I rub the toothbrush, and that really helps to remove a lot of those little threads. So it gives it a cleaner look. So I did that with the few that, you know, decided to just be annoying and have those little threads and whatnot, little fibers, and then adhered all those together. And then there's also a little like chew die, I guess you would call it, like a bite mark die in the watermelon slice Die-Namics, which I got a kick out of. So some of them I ran through the finished slices. I ran through my die cut machine with that die, so it looks, you know, like a bite's been taken out. I thought that was adorable. And then I also decided for all of my cards, they're all heavyweight white cardstock, but I wanted to add a little bit of color, but nothing too crazy. So I'm just using Mowed Lawn Distress Ink, just regular Distress Ink, with a Picket Fence blender brush, and doing just a very light blend. I'm not worried about that little center area where the initial splotch is, because that's getting covered up. I just want to get the ink down, and then that nice, perfect, smooth blend. I can't say it enough. These brushes, they really are life-changing. I have struggled for years to get that nice, you know, seamless, smooth blend out to white. These are just, so that's what I did on all the cards. I just did a quick, easy blend. I never wash these brushes. I just rub them on a microfiber cloth, and they're good to go. Like, no ink transfers. I can go to a different color, different type of ink, whatever. So wipe that on the microfiber cloth. Set that aside, and then I wanted to add a little bit more splatter. I can't help myself. With these Oxide sprays, it's like everything needs to be splattered. They're just begging for it. So I've got the Mowed Lawn Oxide spray again. And I'm just using copy paper to kind of protect the back of the cards, because I just want the splatter on the front. So I shake up the bottle always with the Oxide sprays. You want to shake them side to side like a bell, because if you shake them up and down, the ink can start coming out the nozzle, or like the edges of the spray mechanism. So shake them up to disperse that pigment, and then I just pull the nozzle right out and use that to splatter the card. And then I use just my cloth to kind of wipe out my splat box, because I'm doing multiple cards and there's not enough time between for that to like soak into that cardboard. I don't mind a little bit of smears here and there when I'm doing like splattering and making a mess and having fun and all that stuff. I don't mind if I get a few smears here and there on the inside or the outside of my card, but I want to prevent excessive mess. You know, you still want things to look nice. So I wipe off the excess of the splatter in the box with my little flour sack cloth, and then I can go on to the next card and just keep repeating this process until I have all 5 of my card fronts splattered with this fabulous Oxide splatter, which dries quite quickly. And then I also pulled out my absolute all-time favorite, the black and white stripes pattern paper from MFT. I just pulled out one piece, and I'm just trimming them down into 1-inch strips. And then once I have those trimmed down, I'm just eyeballing each one for each card base. I'm no rhyme or reason to how long I'm making it. I'm just kind of eyeballing it and trimming off some of the excess with my paper trimmer here. So once I have all of those done, I can now get to the actual assembly of my cards, because at this point everything is done. The, you know, die cutting's done, the assembling of the die cuts, etc. Everything is done. So all I want to do now is take my little scissors. I cut a notch down the center of these pattern paper strips, and then I meet each end, which with the end of that little notch I cut, and that just creates a nice little like, you know, fishtail flag end to it. And then I'm just going to adhere everything with that same glue. I'm not using any foam tape or anything because there's enough going on. There's enough dimension with the layers of die cuts and just everything that I don't feel the need this time, shockingly, for any foam tape. So I'm just adhering everything. Each one is going to be slightly different, so they're not completely the same. And some cards get one piece, some get two pieces of, you know, the watermelon slices. And then I'm just adhering the sweet die cut as well, and then one of the heat embossed sentiments. With this one, because it hangs over the edge of the card, I'm just going to flip over my card and trim off the excess. And I had a bunch of those die cut seeds left over because I ended up die cutting more than I needed when I was doing the actual slices because I lost track of, again, my brain was like just not catching up with things. I was so sick. So I had all these extra, you know, die cut seeds left over and I didn't want to waste them. So I just added little dabs of adhesive to the inside of the cards and just kind of adhered a few of the seeds to the inside of each card just to tie it all together. So I would adhere those into place. And then as a final little bit of embellishment, I pulled out some of my Nouveau drops. I have Ebony Black, Carnation Pink, and Morning Dew, which is clear. And I'm just adding those to each of my card fronts. And I like to tap my card bases like on my work surface. I'll tap them kind of on a like closed ink pad, something a little raised. That just helps smooth out the Nouveau drops, so they end up looking a little bit more like enamel dots. So just applied a few of those in varying sizes all over each of those card fronts, and then I set all of these aside carefully because I have a tendency to, you know, poke at things. So set them aside to dry. It's recommended they dry for 24 hours. I usually just let them sit overnight and then they're good to go. So I did that to all of the cards and that finished them all off. These were so much fun to make. I had a blast. And like I said, I made a mess, but they were so enjoyable. And I have more ideas for these wafer dies too. They're just so cute. So as always, I will have links below the video to my blog post. I'll have a supply list. I'll link to everything I used. So you can check that out below if you are interested. Thank you all so much for watching, for subscribing, for thumbs upping, for commenting. I really, really appreciate it. And I will have links to other videos you guys can check out if you're interested. And I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye.